Peace was short-lived for the gang, as ultimately, within a few days of Frieza's defeat, Beerus's brother Champa and his angel attendant Vados made a quick visit from Universe 6 to Universe 7. An argument between Beerus and Champa over Earth ensued, and promptly after, a tournament was organized for the sake of it, one which decided which universe would get to keep Earth and its delicious food. In preparation for the tournament, Goku and Vegeta enter the hyperbolic time chamber so they can get in a few years worth of training. After pleading a lot, Trunks manages to persuade Gohan to take some time off of work to also accompany him in the time chamber. They stay there for just over 2 years. And so, the Universe 6 tournament begins. The lineup was the same as in the original series, only this time with Gohan and Trunks replacing Piccolo and Majin Buu. They completed the written assignment, with Gohan getting a perfect score of course, and then the matches began. First up is Gohan, who goes against Botamo. Gohan could already tell that his opponent was incredibly bulky, so strikes and blasts were probably not going to do much damage against him. The fight begins, and Gohan powers up into Ultimate. Botamo smirks and taunts Gohan, wanting him to hit him. Gohan approaches slowly, before sprinting full speed at the opponent and slamming into him with his shoulder. Botamo wasn't expecting this, but despite being caught off guard, he stood his ground and pushed him back. Gohan was surprised at how sturdy he was, however, he wasn't using his full power just yet. Gohan burst open his aura and pushed himself into his stomach, and then began to lift him up. Botamo slowly began to rise and start to flail, trying to grab Gohan and stop him. His attempts were futile, however, as he couldn't reach him at all. With one final burst of ki, Gohan threw Botamo out of bounds. Trunks cheered from the sidelines. He expected no less from Gohan after all. The next competitor made his way to the stage, who took everyone by surprise due to his resemblance to Frieza. Gohan didn't trust him at all, despite him talking about all the good he's done. There was just something about him that felt off, and didn't feel genuine. Their battle began, and Gohan wasn't having any issues at all. After all, Frost was still in his first form. Gohan began to get impatient, and just told him to transform already, so they can have a proper fight. Frost was caught a little off guard by this, not to mention insulted. So, Frost transformed into his final form, immediately to shut him up. The two continued to battle, and Gohan wasn't having a challenge at all, so he just planned on finishing it. Frost was beginning to panic, so he decided to use his trump card. Gohan, however, was feeling anxious. He had no idea how his opponent was expecting to win when this was all he had to offer. Gohan got in close and punched his chest hard, then fell backwards. He was suddenly overcome with intense dizziness and nausea. He could tell immediately, however, that this was the work of some sort of poison, thanks to his knowledge on biology and chemistry. He just had to get the others. He had to. But before he could, he passed out. Everyone stood in silence, taking in what just happened. No one knew what to make of it, including the announcer, who declared Frost the winner in a confused manner. Videl was thinking to herself, what could have Gohan been trying to tell them? Frost smirked and remarked on how that fight was easier than he thought it would be. No one really knew what to make of it, Trunks especially. He was up next. He was quite worried about his foe. He didn't even see Frost's attack, which took down Gohan. Had he really been hiding his true abilities through the majority of their fight? Trunks began walking down the arena, passing by Gohan in the process. Everyone was confused at how such a one-sided fight suddenly ended with the clearly weaker one winning. Trunks jumped onto the arena and stared down at Frost. He didn't trust him one bit either, and decided he better keep his distance until he understood his abilities. Thankfully, he was Vegeta's son, and he specialized in ki blasts. The announcer declared that the battle had begun, and immediately, Frost rushed towards Trunks. It was obvious that whatever he did to Gohan, he was trying to do to Trunks. Trunks still had the advantage, however, and easily avoids the Ice Jin swipes. Seems like Blast were his best option here, so he jumped up and blasted the arena with one single final flash. This forced Frost to jump out of the way, but Trunks appeared behind him and smashed his fist against his spine. This sent him flying away. But Frost wasn't done just yet. He spun around while flying out, and pushed himself back towards Trunks, trying to punch him. With the same fist, he punched Gohan. Whatever that was, that must have been it. Trunks dodged the attack, by flopping down to the ground and then kicking Frost upwards. Trunks then jumped up, grabbed Frost by the legs, and threw him out of the arena, followed by a few ki blasts just in case he tried to return. That was it. Frost was knocked out of bounds. Trunks wasn't satisfied with his victory, however. He needed to know how he defeated Gohan so easily. It was up close, so he had to do something with his body. Trunks quickly jumped over to Frost to investigate him, and found exactly what he was looking for: a small poison needle located on his arm. He informed everyone, and the poison was confirmed to be the cause of Gohan's suffering. The announcer then stated that Frost, despite losing, was also disqualified, and Gohan's loss was redacted, though he would need to recover first before he's able to participate. Trunks continues on. Next up is Trunks versus Magetta. This battle starts off slow, with neither opponent making much progress. Trunks is far too agile for Magetta to even touch, and Magetta is very dense. Making any attack Trunks throws his way basically looked like it does no damage. Getting tired of Trunks avoiding all of his attacks, Magetta begins to spit out lava. No one was expecting this, and there's no way for Trunks to defend himself at such a devastating attack. Trunks mutters to himself, "Damn robot." And then suddenly, Magetta ceases his continuous lava spewing. Trunks and the audience are all confused by this, but the fight goes on. Then there's another instance where Trunks curses, after nearly getting his hair burned off in a similar fashion as before. And Magetta immediately stops attacking, looking sad and depressed. Trunks realized the pattern here. He was a little bit too polite to do it. He didn't want to insult his opponent like that, but it was the only way to win. He awkwardly began to make really disparaging comments that wouldn't have insulted anyone else, just Magetta. As expected, his opponent was overly sensitive and lost his will to fight. Trunks did feel extremely bad for this, and he knew that his mother probably wouldn't approve of him using such disrespectful language, especially to win a fight. Kid Trunks was cheering his older self up, while Bulma shook her head. He was being a little bit of a bad influence. Trunks chuckled. "Dumb stinking robot, take this! Gallic gun!" Trunks shouted as he landed the blast on the armored giant, pushing him back against the arena ledge and forcing him to break out of bounds. Trunks just secured another victory. Vegeta made a remark about how Trunks' one-liners severely need to be worked on, and quite frankly, he was embarrassed to call him his son after that. Trunks laughed alongside his father. Even present Trunks agreed that his vocabulary sounded like something Goten would say instead. Vegeta then asks Trunks to stand back for the next fight, as he wants to be the one to challenge the Saiyan. Cabba and Vegeta fight as in the original story, with Trunks being very surprised at how much of a mentor role his father had taken. He hadn't seen him like this, ever really, but he was happy to see him change like that. At the end of the fight, Vegeta said that if he ever wants to reach his level, then first he'd have to defeat his son, Trunks. The half-Saiyans had much more potential than himself and Kakarot. Trunks was embarrassed by these comments. Universe 6's next opponent made his way onto the stage. His ki wasn't similar to anyone else's they've met so far. Trunks didn't even notice the guy approached him, if he was honest. He was silent, and Trunks felt a little unnerved. But he was sure his father could take him on. And how wrong he was, as the assassin Hit was able to quickly defeat the prince, similar to the original tale. Trunks couldn't believe it. There seemed to be a spark of anger in his ki, which Goku noticed as he was about to step up to the ring. The curious Goku tilted his head and turned to the announcer, seeing that Trunks can go back in first. After all, he hasn't lost just yet. Goku wondered what that ki presence could mean. Trunks stepped up, as Gohan cheered him on, finally recovered. The battle began, and neither fighter moved. Trunks was watching his opponent carefully, trying to figure out what the best course of action could be against a fighter like him. His opponent Hit just stared back at the half-Saiyan, seemingly wanting to strike. Trunks wasn't able to find any opening in his stance, but decided to strike first anyways. Hit avoided his punch with ease, then again with his kick and all other moves Trunks threw his way. Suddenly, Trunks fell backwards. He hadn't seen Hit throw a punch, but he was definitely feeling it. Somehow this guy was impossibly fast. Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, and the others, watching from the sidelines, had no idea what just happened. The Galactic King informs everyone that Hit is using some sort of time stop ability that allows him to stop time for 0.1 seconds. Gohan shouts this over at Trunks, in order to help him out at least. But there's nothing much Trunks can do with that information. They continue their battle, but it seems futile. Despite how much damage Trunks takes from Hit, he refuses to give up and surrender the match to him. Hit even asks the announcer if it's against the rules to kill his opponent, which obviously it is. Trunks was losing and he had no idea what to do. If he surrendered, he'd disappoint not only Gohan but his father as well. He had to keep pushing. If only he had access to that Super Saiyan Blue power his dad and Goku had. The fight only became more violent, but Trunks kept going, utilizing every bit of training he had endured over the years. Hit approached Trunks. He was tired of this battle too. Trunks knew that it was his time skip ability that helped him land a blow. He was frustrated and angry at himself for not being able to counter such a troublesome ability. All he could think of was about letting down his father, Gohan, and everyone else watching him right now. Hit used his ability and threw a punch at Trunks, but Trunks blocked against it, and in a split second, his aura turned blue, despite being in his ultimate form, like something had activated on top of it. Then, in that same instant, he landed a blow on Hit. Hit was caught completely off guard and stumbled back for a second. He regained his composure and kicked Trunks from behind, sending him tumbling over the edge and off of the arena. It was over. Trunks was disappointed in himself, but he was at least proud to have landed a blow, despite not entirely understanding how he did it. Gohan and the others questioned him on it, but Trunks said that he just couldn't explain it. Well, he knew that in that moment he felt uncontrollable rage. Hit, however, approaches him, rubbing his chest where he had been punched. Hit said that he was impressed, and that he could have made a fine assassin. Lucky for him, he wasn't willing to kill anyone, because that power was impressive. Hit then turned around and walked back into the arena. Trunks was confused, but he'll take the compliment. Next up was Goku, who unveiled his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken trump card. Hit suffered quite a lot of damage during this fight. After all, he had been in 2 previous battles already, so he was a little bit more tired than in the original series. Even with these disadvantages, Goku's not quite able to beat him, and so he steps out of the arena, hoping to fight him at full force one day. Gohan attempted to defeat him as well, but just like with Trunks, he struggled to even land a blow. What Gohan had over him was just how smart he was. Even if he didn't win, he landed a few blows. By misdirecting Hit and pretending he was punching somewhere else where he was actually kicking. But be it as it might, and even though Gohan is Super Saiyan Blue level at this point, Hit's time skip is just something he needs to analyze more. Perhaps if he gets to fight him again someday, he will be ready. Either way, just like in the original story, Monaka steps to the ring. Monaka cautiously approached Hit, throwing his most fearsome punch. Hit was pretty fed up with the tournament, launching himself out of the arena and walking off. And thus concluded the Universe 6 and Universe 7 tournament. Beerus would not stop bragging, of course, until Zeno made his appearance. Goku became friends with the Omni King immediately, alluding to a possible tournament of power. Trunks couldn't believe it. Goku was so much more trouble than it was worth. He wondered what it would have been like if he had been in the future. Maybe they would have survived, or maybe he would have egged on the androids. Peace returned to Earth, and our fighters went back to their daily lives of training. Trunks in particular wanted to use that rage he had felt. He wanted to unlock it fully, and Gohan was helping him, because no one knew rage quite like Gohan. Trunks often visits the future every month, though it's around 3 months for Bulma. Trunks had used his knowledge of the Namekian Dragon Balls to wish for everything to return back to normal on Earth. He thought about things, and asked Purunga if he could bring back everyone killed by the androids. Though a lot of humans were brought back, he couldn't sense the energy of Piccolo, Vegeta, and the others. However, he did feel one specific presence. He quickly returned to Earth, walked into Capsule Corp, and his eyes widened, looking at future Gohan, sitting, having tea with his mother. He jumped to hug Gohan tightly. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that he was back. Future Gohan, with both arms, hugged Trunks back. He thanked him for everything, and that he was sorry he couldn't help more out. There was so much to discuss with each other, and so the two caught up. As it turns out, his father, Vegeta, and many of the others remained in heaven. It had been too long for them, and they were at peace. Gohan himself wasn't sure if he wanted to return, but Goku encouraged it. He had so much life ahead of him still, and both him and Trunks were protectors of Earth. Nothing could stand in their way now. Trunks was a little saddened about everyone else not returning, but he understood. He had gone through so many horrors himself. If he had a chance to finally be at peace, then he'd probably take it as well. Plus, Gohan explained, Goku died of natural causes, so it's not like he could just return like that anyways. Trunks stayed in the future for a lot longer than he usually does, but he did acknowledge that his home was now in the present. He invited Gohan to come along, but Gohan said that he wasn't sure if he was quite ready for something like that. There was a lot to do in the future still. There was so much panic caused, so he'd stick around, protect the future, until Trunks returned. Trunks agreed. That was probably for the better, but made Gohan promise to come back with him soon enough. Gohan shot him a thumbs up. And so, Trunks returned to the future. He continued to train hard with present Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta, until one day, a time machine just like future Trunks's arrived. It was much more beat up than Trunks's, and it seemed to be made out of scraps, with just enough fuel to get him there. The time machine door opened, and out popped future Gohan. He was extremely hurt, and he was screaming for Trunks. Vegeta and Goku landed in front of him, and future Gohan's eyes shook. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Future Trunks slowly approached him, asking him what's wrong, while Gohan took a few steps back. But he finally relaxed. When future Trunks hugged him, he realized that he wasn't the one that attacked them. But this was still so strange. He grabbed onto Trunks tightly and said that the future was in danger. That Bulma, she's dead. Future Trunks dropped his arms. He couldn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it. But as he looked into Gohan's eyes, he could see the reality of it. The pain. Future Bulma really was dead. In an instant, future Trunks' aura sparked up in a blue and golden hue once more. The same one as the one from the tournament. But this one was a lot more consistent. Trunks screamed in pain and anger. He would make whoever did this pay. But Gohan was telling him to calm down, that the one who did this was none other than himself. Next, what if Trunks stayed in the past? Everyone, that was the third part of What If Trunks Stayed in the Past. Sorry it took a while to get done. Huge thank you to Chris DS for editing the video, he did an amazing job, and thank you to Brando Edits for the thumbnail. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to The Real Silas Fan 69, aka Sharo Gaming, for editing the spotless Cell from my previous video, What If Cell Defeated Gohan. Be sure to check it out if you haven't already. It's one I'm really proud of, and it was really fun to make. Also, a quick announcement, my friends over at Geeks for Fun are holding auditions for an animatic series all about Yamoshi. They've worked so hard on it, I know a little bit about the story already, and I've auditioned myself. So I really hope you guys will check it out, audition, and support them, because it's gonna be an amazing project. Also at Geeks for Fun is What If Dragon Ball Was in DC? The Doom Saga Episode 10. They've made an incredible video and one of the most heartfelt love letters to the Dragon Ball franchise. You'll want to check it out. It's out right now. Link in the description. Either way, shout out to the Patreons of the channel. BeastieMan420, Faisal Alsharef, Shaki Rush, Akko, Grim Shadow 227, Chris Banks, Giovanni Jimenez, Mark Plays, Zanos, D-Man for Life, KV, Hurt Fanfiction, Blaze9526, Crace PlayStation CK, Free Flow Highway, Jackie effing Chan, Mystic Angel, Shane K, Angel MR, True Lightning Striker, Squad 100, Ghost 1571, Lee Urquidez, Kaiser Jirachi, Jonas Paulus, Trentrals, D-Man Plays, Jim G, Jerome Foster, Saleo Paranjape, Keith Grimes, Celestia, and Samuel Randall. A huge thank you to all of you guys, and remember, by becoming a third-tier patron, you can get access to videos early when I get them done early. For example, one of my next videos, What If GT Goku Met Bardock? A pretty heartfelt story, if I do say so myself, is up on Patreon right now. But don't worry, it'll be coming next week for everyone. Either way, you guys, I hope you enjoy, and until we meet again. See ya!